In this video, I will present how I used online and hybrid student collaboration, group work, project work to achieve our learning goals. I have been using digital tools in education for years. Since online education became compulsory due to the pandemic, I have had the opportunity to continuously apply my existing knowledge and even learn new methods and try them out. My previous experience has facilitated both my students and my own transition to an online work schedule. I also had the chance to experiment with hybrid education for a relatively short period of time, when we returned to school in autumn 2020. At that time, due to social distancing rules, only half of each class was physically present, and the other half joined the class work from home. When doing project work in small groups, I created the groups through the Zoom application and I used random grouping. As a first step, we discussed the task. The group had to decide what applications and tools to use for creating the product of the project. I thought it would be better to leave this decision to the students, because this way they use an application that they already know and are familiar with, so getting to know the interface would not be an obstacle. It was also their decision to use Discord for communicating during the project, because they often use this app when playing online games. The groups could let me know in Zoom anytime they needed help or advice. They shared the interface of their project work with me, so this way I was able to track their progress throughout the project. As opposed to group work in the traditional classroom, this option was much more time efficient for us, as the groups did not have to wait for me to get from one table to another, but they could show me their work on the screen with a single click. The difficulty with communicating on the Discord interface was that I didn't see to what extent the group members were involved in the work, if at all. So I asked the students to tell me during the presentation how each group member contributed to the creation of the final product. The completed project work was presented to the entire class on Zoom, and posted on the Google Classroom wall so that it can be accessed anytime later on too. In subsequent project work, I noticed that it was always the same students who were active in the project work, so there were students who contributed little to the work of the group. Preventing this is still problematic in our projects up to these days. My class and I have recently joined a project competition by the Spectrum Educational Center. In this competition, the students had to create projects, digital timeline, interactive map, interviews about women scientists and their scientific achievements. This challenge had to be faced in a hybrid environment because a child in my class broke his leg, so he had to learn from home for 6 weeks, and joined his group from home almost throughout the entire project. He was able to attend classes using Google Meet, but the difficulty was that when the teacher or talking student moved away from the laptop's microphone, he could no longer hear the explanation. It was particularly challenging for me to deal with his involvement in activities, as I prefer to use much pair work and group work. Initially, we used a laptop in his group, where his peers could see him, but the classroom noise typical to such activities was very disturbing for him. Moreover, it was impossible for me to hear what he was saying or asking me. Eventually, the students themselves came up with a better solution. They suggested we should connect their online peer through a mobile phone with wireless headset. Despite the difficulty that one of the students had to repeat my explanation to him, and also retell his ideas to the group, it was a good solution to the problem. In this case, just like in online education, his group shared the interface of the project work with the child learning from home, so he had the same access to work as the others. This child suffers of chronic illness, so he often has to stay at home. This time it meant a lot to him that we didn't miss him out from our joint project planning, teamwork and presentation, but he continued to be part of the class community. When he was finally able to return to school, he didn't find it difficult to connect with his classmates, unlike so many other times before, because he hadn't been isolated from the community, thanks to hybrid learning options. During the implementation of the project, it was also good that the project work had to be done on a digital interface, so the boys' involvement in the work was not a problem. In hybrid education, I often use interactive demonstrations as well as online games as a way of revision or to practice a new lesson, so students from home as well as those in the classroom have the same experience. It remains a concern for me that nowadays, both parents and school management are reluctant to use digital devices in class, because of the increased screen time due to online education. The difficulty of hybrid education, I think, lies mainly in the lack of proper technological equipment and the fact that we have little or no experience in hybrid education. For example, the first time when half of my class was joining from home, I walked to the back of the classroom while explaining something and finished my explanation there. It took me about 3 minutes to notice that those at home could hear nothing of what I had been saying. It is very stressful and exhausting to plan and carry out a lesson in a hybrid environment for one person, one teacher alone, because the same person has to explain things and monitor work in two places at the same time.